All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. This is the Common Rule Podcast. I am your humble narrator. My name is Danny. And man, how have you been? I know it's been a minute again. These podcasts, these episodes are going a little bit too far between. I know that, and it is something that I'm working on. And, you know, that's what this podcast is about. Let's just call it another state of the podcast. No guest today, just me flying solo. I am sitting here, and one of the things that I haven't been able to do lately is, it's not that I'm crazy about time, it's just that the day job is keeping me busy. And behind the scenes, I'd say about the past 2 or 3 weeks, maybe actually almost 4 or 5 weeks, now that I think about it, I've been working on a lot of things along with the day job as far as doing the things, making some moves, making some motions here, and finding the time to actually sit down. I have notes and I have things that I want to podcast about for sure. I just dropped my notes here. And so I got a bunch of things that I wanted to say, but I think that this time around, I've actually going to go in a little different direction here. Now, what I'm actually right now sitting in the dark. There's a power outage, and I don't think it's in all Phoenix. I think it's just in my area. Last Thursday or Friday, they sent everybody in this complex a note, and I assume everybody in the general vicinity. They made a flyer, and they stuck it to everyone's door saying that today there was going to be a power outage today between 10 at night and 2 in the morning. So I'm working on my things during working the day job, and I decided that about 15 minutes ago, I'm like, okay, this is a good time to stop. I wonder what time they're going to shut off the light. And right at 10 o'clock, these fucking motherfuckers just boom, flipped the switch, and they're doing whatever it is they're going to do. I'm hoping that it doesn't take all night or until 2 to get done. I got a couple of things I got to finish, but either way, without any power, I have a way to podcast and sit here and basically record on the little itty bitty recorder here and get it done. As a side note, as I sat here and got this set up in my living room done with the recorder, I just realized that this is probably a great podcast setup for where I'm moving. All right, so this is the nitty gritty, and this is probably the final podcast episode that I will be doing in Phoenix. For sure, out of this apartment, and I'm making the move. I'm going out to the West Coast and doing my thing there, and going back to the beach, actually. So I got lucky with a couple of things, and we're making it happen. So I am in a transitional period right now. I got a bunch of things packed up here. I got a lot of moves to make the next couple of weeks, and I think officially by the first 10 days for sure of November, or within the first 10 days of November, I will be out of here for sure. One of the things that I didn't want to announce before last Friday was to make it official. But it's official. I signed a contract, got the keys to my new place, and I went over there, set up some things. I got the internet going, and I had to do a couple of things extra there that I did not take into account. That, let's just say some extra expenditures that I needed to make that I did not realize I needed to make, but I had to. And I'm not trying to be all sly about where I'm living or anything like that. It's just that at the moment, those that know me, you're more than welcome to hit me up and go, hey, dude, where you at? But at the moment, I'm not going to officially announce it just yet. It's not that I'm completely superstitious, but you know what? A black cat just crossed my trail. You know what I'm saying? A howling wolf little tune. No, it's just that I really want to make it happen as far as maybe the next episode already being recorded at my new place. And once I get everything set up and say, hey, this is the new official Common Rule West coming at you, and get it done in that aspect. So I thought that sitting here in the dark and talking about what eventually is going to be new beginnings and a new start, I thought about just go down memory lane a little bit. Sometimes, you know, when you're watching a show, they got that one episode in the middle of the season that talks about where they are at in the story and before continuing on, sort of thing. I thought it'd be a good idea to do that, sitting here with the flashlight in hand looking at my notes, sort of thing. And you know, it is bittersweet at the end of the day. Phoenix and I wouldn't say we're the best fit, but I did a lot of things in Phoenix artistically that I can't ever take away from it. You know, I've definitely grown artistically. First and foremost, if you're listening to this podcast grew out of that. So, that happened while I was in Phoenix. Phoenix allowed me to be able to have the resources, let's just say, to be able to move forward artistically and you know, emotionally in some sense. When I first got here, I was very frustrated with a lot of things, and slowly but surely, because of the people I met and because of the things that I encountered, I was able to move forward artistically and grow as someone who wants to be an artist and somebody who wants to create things as opposed to destroy things, you know. And I will always be pretty grateful to Phoenix for that, and the people in Phoenix that allowed me to do these sort of things and allowed me to, in a weird way, almost experiment on my craft before moving on. And it's not that I'm going to completely leave Phoenix. There's things here that I got to come back to every once in a while, but for sure I'm not going to be living here permanently, at least in the near future. I don't know what will happen after that, but you know, it's I'm very excited. You know, if you've been following the podcast, you know that the past year, as far as my health goes, it hasn't been the best for me. I haven't exactly been living the life here, and I've been looking for silver linings throughout the whole thing. And then during that time, this pandemic, the COVID hit, and which allowed me to even more so not be able to create the way that I wanted to, and to more or less find other ways to fill the creative need. And I've done a couple of things, a lot of planning, but not as many shoots and portrait sessions that I would like with other people. But that's okay. I gotta find out, you know, what else I can do, what else I can shoot. And I did. I found a project that I shot recently that had to do with me. And it's, you know, a different way to be able to define creativity and define myself as an artist. And I imagine that a lot of you are going through the same thing as well, where it's like your normal way of being creative, your normal way of expressing yourself has been blocked somehow, or at the very least there's obstacles in front that we've had to overcome somehow and be able to express ourselves in different ways. I was just telling a buddy that I haven't had a real portrait session in over a year. I haven't picked up my digital camera in over a year, which is fine. I mean, I just developed my first roll a film in a long time, but those are shots that I've taken recently or somewhat recently within the past few months. So it's not that I haven't been photographing. It's just that certain things, certain sessions haven't come to light, or haven't been made. And I'm like, okay, cool. And it's just a lot of planning and things like that. So again, it's somewhat frustrating, but at the same time, you're able to find other things that can fill the void a little bit. For instance, today, and this is a perfect example. There's no power. Again, I'm in the dark here. And I've decided that, okay, this is a good time to podcast. So I got my little recorder out, and I got my little light stand. I'm sitting in my chair in the living room, and I decided to set up a little bit. And it occurred to me that, again, this would be the perfect setup. I just need a stand, a microphone stand, and my little lawn chair, and I can go to the beach. And lucky for me, I'm going to be very close to the beach, walking distance, as a matter of fact. And I can sit down and plop down and just open up some beers or some drinks or whatever, and be able to podcast with the oceans in the background, with the ocean waves in the background. And I'm like, okay, that's pretty good. And I thought that, once in a while that'll happen. The place I'm moving at is it's an apartment, and my neighbors are pretty cool. But the one on the same floor as I am, right across the way, she has a son with a mental disability, and he's really loud. So there are times when podcasting, I mean, it's not going to bug me too much, and I'm probably not going to bug you guys or anybody here listening too much. You just listen to the ambient sound that I have when I'm podcasting. But once in a while, you'll hear loud noises, loud screams, some yelling, and sometimes the neighbor likes to blast her music and do karaoke. Which is something that I heard this past weekend when I was down there, over there setting up. So, that'll be pretty cool, I guess. As far as background noise and things like that, it's not, again, it's not so bad. It's just, part of life I'm more want to live in. But I wanted to talk about as far as like, again, what Phoenix has been able to offer me. And I do, and the whole thing is not, oh, Phoenix is bad here, Phoenix is good here. More or less, it's a reflection about what I was able to do artistically or creatively. I don't claim to be this huge artist or anything like that, but I do, at the very least, find ways to be creative as much as I can. And as going through the pros and cons of what Phoenix has allowed me to do, it's something that I'm going to be able to take everywhere and learn from, and be able to adapt as much as I have here in Phoenix, and apply it to just about every other place that I want to go to. And so with that, I'm going to talk about the cons first, because there are a lot of pros. But the cons to Phoenix are, well, they were kind of, in the beginning, it was difficult for me to overcome in the very beginning. And, but it is something that happened. And it is something that allowed me to grow in the end. Like, my first biggest con in Phoenix is the music scene here. And while we do have a lot of the touring bands, national bands that come, some of them come through really nice on the big, in the big stadiums, like, bands like Kings of Leon, the Black Keys, and a bunch of other bands. Sometimes they do make it through Phoenix. And a couple other bands just don't. They just skip the scene altogether, because they would rather go through Tucson, which I found, funny, than make their way through Phoenix. I don't know what the issue is with putting a band here in Phoenix or putting a national tour through Phoenix, but it's kind of weird. There are a couple of good venues here in Phoenix that I enjoyed. I didn't get to hit all of them, but the ones that I did enjoy are the small venues, things like the Rebel Lounge, and the Crescent Ballroom, and what's the one that's downtown across from I forget Valley shit. I forget. I'll remember in a little bit. But you guys know what I'm talking about. You got to go downstairs to the show. That's a really cool venue. And a couple other ones. The Yucca Tap Room. It's a good little place. But the music scene here in Phoenix wasn't as... let's just say there wasn't as big a community in the music scene here as there was in other places, even LA, but coming from a place like San Diego where so many bands came together and were able to create a community, and it's still ongoing in certain genres in San Diego, that I didn't see that here in Phoenix, and certainly nothing that's where everybody is helping each other promote. There was a couple of bands that do help each other out a little bit, but from that, I really didn't. I didn't feel that there was a music scene here. The one that I can't really say too much about, but it seemed like there was a little bit, is the really heavy shredder death metal scene. When I first got here, we went to a couple of shows, and there's talent here, man. I mean, I love it. But that's not my jam. That's not my music. I'll listen to a couple of tunes and then bam, I'm out, man. I can't take it. So, but I saw a lot of good shows on the Rhythm Room. But there's that's more of a blues thing. And truth be told, it's more of a Chicago style blues scene. And instead of, there was a couple of cool people that went through there. And a couple of shows there, but again, it's more of a jump, jive, and wail sort of thing sometimes, in that sort of Chicago style blues. It's great, don't get me wrong, but it's I can't keep going to basically the same sort of genre every single time, sort of thing. But again, the Rhythm Room is a great place to catch a show. Even if it didn't have to do anything with blues. There's a couple of rock bands that came through that were really cool, that weren't blues. And again, it's a great venue. But one of the big reasons that I got into photography was the music scene. And what really drove me a lot was the music scene in San Diego. The camaraderie, the people coming together, everyone going to each other's show. It's a big community, and it was amazing. And that's something that is completely lacking in Phoenix. Everyone's in their own little world. And the one time that I went to a show, and I'm not going to mention any bad names or anything like that, and I think I spoke about this before, but I went to a show at a local venue here, and there was a band from Tucson coming up. And it was talking about a band in Phoenix, and it was really disappointing to hear them talk and putting each other down to like, oh my God, well, they're from fucking Mesa. They don't know, what the fuck are they going to do? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, motherfucker, you're from fucking Tucson, man. You're not from, what are you talking about? And that's not me trying to shit on Tucson. But that's just me shitting on somebody who thinks they're from some big, you're not even big in Japan. You know what I'm saying? And that was frustrating, as opposed to, them going, hey, man, you know what? We should do more shows for each other. I'm going to go down there. You come up here. And instead of talking like that, they were sitting there talking. And again, I'm going to tell you this, that band talking shit was not that good. I would never pay to see them again. And I'm not sitting here trying to talk shit about not supporting the music scene in that sense, but I am talking shit about the type of person that is in that music scene. And I just wish there was a better overall community here. And the thing, and I've kind of having random conversations with other people, it's almost as if some people didn't realize the lack of community they have here. And again, everybody's in their own little world sort of thing. And you do need that to create, but you need to go to other people's shows sort of thing. Now, this is Phoenix. I don't know how it's like in the outskirts. I don't know how it's like in Mesa. I don't know how it's like in Chandler, North Phoenix, if you will, Avondale, all these places that take about, 20 to 30 minutes to get to on the freeway. I didn't venture out to those scenes. That's, to put it bluntly, that's not my community. That wasn't my community for 8 years. I'm Central Phoenix. And I can only speak about what's going on in Central Phoenix. And again, I try to go to Rips. It's a great dive bar. And there's a couple of good punk bands and rockabilly bands that went through there too, or that played there. The problem with Rips is sometimes, and I don't know what it's like now, but the sound there wasn't as awesome as I wanted it to be. I saw Bob Log III. He's from Tucson, Arizona. And without a doubt, Bob Log III is the best show in town. When he comes in, and if you guys are anywhere near him playing, and if he comes back, you got to go see Bob Log III. It is really just something else. The guy is always on tour. He makes it everywhere. He makes it. He is the constant showman. And if he's in a venue near you, you got to go check him out. But yeah, that was definitely one of the best shows. One of the shows actually he played at Rips was on my birthday. As a matter of fact, I was there, and it's a great show. And he plays anywhere. I've seen him play at the Crescent. I've seen him play at Chopper John's, which is another dive bar right down the street here, where I wouldn't think he would play, but fuck it, he did it. And the Valley Bar, that's the name of the bar I couldn't think about. He's played in there, or has he? I don't know. He's played at Rips. He's played at Chopper John's, and it's the Crescent. It's just a great time and place to go there. The other sort of con in Phoenix, and it's going to sound like I'm complaining about it, but it is the summer. It's the amount of heat. And I talked about this before, where it took me a good 2 years to be acclimated to the heat here. And it was after the second summer, I really did have to make a more or less a spiritual peace to be able to accept the heat and be able to more or less be comfortable being outside or doing some things in the Arizona heat that I wasn't used to. It got better. You learn certain tricks to keep your car from being stifling hot when you get in, so that you're not baking in there. And you learn to, some people just flat out learn to live with it. Other people just flat out learn to have accepted it. And it is a part of living in the desert. And one of the things that I've always really wondered about, or just kind of get fascinated, is like, if you go out, well, let's just say you live in San Diego or by the beach somewhere, or in any other place, and you go out in the middle of summer and it's anywhere from 75 and 80 degrees. You look up at the sky and you go, man, what a beautiful day it is, and the weather's perfect. It's fine. And the thing that happens in the desert, it could be the same sun, the same sky, but you go outside and it's 110 degrees and you're like, fuck this. But it is a beautiful day. You go out and it's a beautiful day and you accept it and you go out, but you can't really go out there and, well, at least I can't. And I don't see a lot of other sort of people doing it as well, to where you're out there being very active or jogging or doing a lot of things out in the heat. And again, it's a lot of people have been acclimated, but it's not I found that there's definitely more activity in the winter and the spring than there is during the summer and early fall. And again, today in Phoenix, it was something like 95 degrees, which if you live somewhere else, it's stifling hot. But when I go outside, I'm already used to it. 95 degrees is fine, and you get used to it. And then you do start, normally we start going out right now, I would think, and sitting in patios and doing, you know, certain things, and maybe even start going out for walks and things like that. But in 110, 112, 115, 120, there's no fucking way I'm going out for a walk no matter what. So I'm stuck indoors sort of thing. And it's just, and while, again, spring is beautiful, winter, it gets really fucking cold in the winter, but it's still not as extreme here in the winter as it is during the summer. So, and I know that people listening, it sounds like I'm preaching to the choir, but as far as being a con, yeah, the winter shuts down a little bit as far as what you can and can't do. And yeah, for sure, it is like if there is a summer festival for music, I'm going to have to think twice of whether or not I want to go out and participate in something. Let's just say it's a band that I'm on the fence about, and it's like, oh shit, they're going to be here in August. And of course, yeah, there's no such thing as like, no one's crazy enough to put a fest. There's only been like a couple of festivals that have happened, I think, during the middle of the summer. But if it were to happen, it's just like, you know what? Yeah, I ain't going. Fuck that. You know, it's just a certain, you know, the mentality it is. Because, you know what? Dealing with the extreme heat is a real thing. It takes a lot out of you. And it took a lot out of me within these last year or so. So, you know, it's just like, ugh. And again, that's the big, it is a big con about living in Phoenix. You have to have the air conditioning on, and the windows have to be closed, and the curtains have to be closed. And it's very apparent to where I'm looking at my new apartment where there's no central AC, and all my windows are open and the breeze is coming through. That sort of, that's a different mentality to have, and that's not something that happens year round. That's definitely something that can't happen in the summer, and in certain late winter where it gets really cold here. Yeah, that's not going to be happening either. So that's again something. It's a workaround. It really is a workaround, and you know, you do learn to deal with it, but that's exactly what you're doing. Is you're dealing with it. You know, you're not. You know, it's something that has to be dealt with. And coming from San Diego, you know, I know that it's a different world out here for sure. But besides that, there really isn't too many other cons to go into. I've never, you know, it's an election year, right? We're voting for president here in a little while. And if the country doesn't, if this state, quote unquote, doesn't turn blue this election, it really is just a matter of time, as far as politically it goes. And that's not me trying to, you know, root for the blue team or, you know, fuck the red team. It's just a matter of fact of there's a change that's happening, and that's been happening here the 8 years that I've lived here. There was the Democratic senator was elected. There's a race that it seems right now it seems pretty close for the other Democratic seat or the other senator, the other Senate seat that's open, and it seems like it's pretty close. I don't know if the Democrat's going to pull it off exactly, but the fact that it's a race, it's sort of a big deal. I wonder if I really wonder though that how everybody, say what you will about the Electoral College, but it is that's just the way that, you elect a president right now. So I'm very curious to see how this state turns out. I have a feeling that it's going to be blue, but you never know. We'll see. Again, if you guys remember, Arizona again was one of those states, along with California and Florida, to see who was the worst state in the union as far as the COVID crisis going on. I think since then it's kind of dialed back a little bit. I think it all has nationwide, but there's still some states that are kind of struggling with that a little bit. But the mentality my whole point was that, politically speaking, I've never felt any animosity from anyone in Arizona or Phoenix as far as being political or being Mexican here. That's and it's not to say that it doesn't exist. It just means that I never felt that, as opposed to living, in some blue state or what have you. So it's what I'm going to put out there. That sort of thing I never felt as far as being a con or anything like that. As far as like, oh, it's a very conservative state. For what I needed to do, for the needs that happened here, the state treated me very well. Again, the resources available to me in this state helped me get through the last year a lot. So there are a lot of people helping here. There's a lot of people that within the state and county process that did help me, not just physically, but emotionally as well through the past year. So that's a pro. It's not a con. And I just kind of wanted to throw that out there because, and I was guilty of this too, before moving into Phoenix and before moving to Arizona. It's like, oh, where do you live? Oh, Phoenix. Oh, fuck. I bet it's a fucking pain in the ass there, blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, wait, hold on a second. I mean, if you're into certain things, yeah. Again, I'm talking about the cons of Phoenix, but that's just something that applies to me personally. Not everyone needs a music scene like I do. Not everyone needs some sort of artistic outlet. What I talked about as far as the music scene, another con that I did kind of come up with is, as far as the local art scene, from where I lived before, there's a lot of talent in Phoenix and Arizona, first and foremost. And it's not to say that there isn't, but the way in which the artwork is shown, I wish there was more of let's just say, a blue collar outlet than there is. There are some things that happen, and you guys know a couple of episodes back, there was Noemi who had her art show, and man, I hope she gets a second chance as that art show when all this clears up. It was just the whole COVID thing hit, and it was bad timing. So I hope that she gets another opportunity. But that was a pretty big art show with a couple of artists she was supposed to have happen, and it didn't. And hopefully that this reset button will have people appreciate going out and checking out local artists, in a sense of not being, I don't know. The thing with me is that Roosevelt, they have First Fridays here, and Roosevelt Row is, it's pretty cool, but by the time I was frequenting it, it got a little, I don't know, out of hand in certain situations, and it wasn't as artistic as I wanted it to be. There was a lot of people praising a lot of, there was a lot of art that was being pushed and a lot of art that was not being pushed. And I'm like, okay, well, and a couple of you guys know what I'm talking about, and I don't want to get into detail on that, but hopefully the art scene here in Phoenix will continue to grow, because again, there's a lot of talent here, and unfortunately, I did not get to go through as much of the talent as I wanted to on the podcast. I hope that I will continue to be able to speak to talent here in Phoenix remotely. And again, it is something that I keep bringing it up every podcast since the last few ones, where Yeah, I got to remote podcast is going to need to be a thing, and I am definitely going to stay connected to Phoenix in that aspect because, again, Phoenix has allowed me to grow artistically, and that's always something that I got to give back to the community, as well as being able to find new artists where I'm going to be at. So with that, I'm going to talk about the pros of Phoenix and what Phoenix has allowed me to do. First and foremost, Phoenix, moving directly from LA here, I will tell you that I loved the bar scene in Phoenix because it was nice not having to pay $5 to $10 for a Bud Light or, beer. And it was easier to find certain beer on tap here. Like, man, well, fuck it. I'll tell you when I first got here, I moved across the street from Enchiladas, and Enchiladas is over here on North 16th Street, just off the one block over. And it's a Mexican food place, which is, it's got some decent dishes. I'm not going to shit on Enchiladas as far as certain things, but Enchiladas, man, I never got over the olives and the salsa. I don't know where that's from. I don't know where you got it from. And to this day, I wonder where you got that idea from. But hey, I mean, it's your thing. But that was never my salsa to go to. But they have a couple dishes in there that were pretty good. The bartender and the staff there was always amazing to me the first few years I started going in there. And yeah, it was about, 2 years, almost 2 years straight I was going in there multiple times a week. You guys know who Billy Gibbons is, the guitar player from ZZ Top? He used to go in there once in a while, man. And that was, dude, if you guys know anything about me and the blues and guitar playing and ZZ Top, you guys know that was a fucking treat. I got to meet Billy Gibbons there. I shook his hand and I spoke to him in Spanish. I like, hombre, ¿cómo estás? And he says, muy bien, gracias, bro. He's Texas through and through, man. And he was sitting there. And, man, I tell you what, I'm going to be an old blues guitar player because this man, the ladies were still coming up to this man. And, the aura just pours from this guy. And it was amazing. I saw him twice. I only talked to him once, though. I can only, get enough balls to go up and talk to him once. I mean, because I'll sit there and I'll corner him and I'll just talk blues with him as much as I can and not let him drink or not let him talk to his ladies. But again, that, I don't know if Billy Gibbons has been back yet or not, but man, that was awesome. But drinking beer, there was amazing. They have certain Mexican beers on tap that are rare. And I'm like, fuck, roll them up. And I had many a good time at Enchiladas coming in. So drinking prices, my point is that drinking in Phoenix is reasonable. You can do what you can with a limited budget in Phoenix. And boy, did I do that. And, it's different than, you got to find a really nice dive bar in Los Angeles to be able to take advantage of the prices that are available in Phoenix. So, yeah, that's number one. But hey, you know what it is? It's just fucking, it's so hot sometimes that I think that they sell the beer by the truckload here as opposed to, in other places. And they sell it to you ice cold, man. Gotta love that, fuck yeah. So, hey, right there, kudos, the number one. Now, there was obviously I've been taking photographs before I got to Phoenix, and I had been shooting film before I got to Phoenix. But I didn't dive into being a film photographer. I've always loved film. I have my film cameras, And at that point, when I got to Phoenix, I had 2 film cameras, and now I have like 8, and in different formats I never thought I'd have. But what Phoenix allowed me to do is grow as a film photographer. And again, I was shooting digital, and we were talking, and I did talk to Eric, and I talked to him on the other podcast, on the Red House podcast, and I should have had him on this podcast too. And, I may still speak to him as well. But he is one that got me into the film photography group in Phoenix. I met Daniel there, of course, from Phoenix Film Revival. And it was nice to see Phoenix Film Revival grow from what I call some sort of obscure meeting in downtown Phoenix a few years ago into a full-blown lab and printing session here within the last year. And that to me is amazing. I'm glad that he's still been able to keep open somewhat during this pandemic, but meeting him and meeting the people that I have in the film photography side of Phoenix is something that's invaluable. I've met a lot of great photographers, and that have allowed me to, of course, Roger was on the podcast here before, and I'm going to speak to him again for the other podcast as well. And just being a film photographer has allowed me to grow creatively and be able to appreciate shooting a still life and shooting just other things in photography that I didn't really think I was going to expand on. And it's not to say that I don't hate certain genres. I mean, I don't, again, going back into like landscape photography isn't really my thing, but, I'll go out there and try, but shooting certain still lives is what I decided, like, okay, well, that's something I'm going to explore, and it's something that I liked. And it's something to the point where Daniel allowed me to shoot a project and have it on display at Phoenix Film Revival, and have my first, actually it was my second art showing in Phoenix, but for sure my favorite, where I was allowed to just expand on this rotting fruit thing that I have. And for that, I will always be grateful to Daniel and all the photographers, and just overall in Phoenix. Well, what's funny is going back into the prices. So in Los Angeles, and this is before I started to develop my own film, which is something that I didn't learn in Phoenix, but I expanded on and found a process that I liked here. It was just speaking to other photographers, talking about certain things, looking on the internet, and growing as an artist. I figured out how to develop my own film in a different way. I'm not going to bore you with it. It's called Stand Develop. If anything, I'm going to put up a little on the blog. I'll put up like side podcast notes or side audio notes on there, side episodes. I'm not going to put it on this podcast because that shit is boring to fucking people that don't give a shit, But it's a process that I learned in Phoenix, and that has taken my film photography to another level, because now I can shoot and develop film and get it back to myself the same day. But what happens is, when I was in Los Angeles, I had a lot of rolls of film. I had about 120 rolls of film that I hadn't developed. And the reason for that is because it's very expensive in Los Angeles to get a roll of film developed, and to get to get them scanned, and to get them, at least get you what they call a contact sheet, which is just a little piece of paper with tiny little photographs of your film, so you can see what was on the roll. When I came here to Phoenix, and blessed Tempe Camera, as far as the film lab side of it, they were very reasonable in the price per roll as far as getting it developed. I pulled out my old scanner. I learned again, or more or less relearned, a skill that I had, and learned how to scan my own film the way that I wanted to. And because I do it a little different than most people. It's a little process, but I was able to change and adapt the way that I wanted it to. And again, it was because Phoenix allowed me to be able to shoot a bunch of roles. And then from there, again, talking to people and acquiring a new skill in Phoenix, I was able to, now I develop my own film. And now it went from reasonably priced to now it's a fraction of the price of what the chemicals, I mean, it's pennies on the dollar as far as how I develop my film. And it's just a great way. And that even furthers my ability to shoot on film and to grow creatively. And it's just, something that I acquired in Phoenix and learned how to do in Phoenix. And I will always be grateful for that. I have friends that that have showed me how to build a PC so that I can edit in bulk faster and bigger files. And again, it's tools that I've acquired in Phoenix that I don't think I would have acquired anywhere else. My buddy taught me how to build a PC, and he built one for me first time around, which I still have. That's going to be my scanning PC. But the other one I just built a few months ago, a couple months ago, I built myself with his tutelage, of course. And again, it's something that Phoenix has allowed me to do. And living here, acquiring these skills to be able to move forward and create from there. Again, it's I met a lot of great people who have allowed me to expand on my commercial photography. We've talked to Billy here before in one of the first episodes of as far as me having a conversation with someone, and Billy. For a couple of jobs, he hired me as the photographer, as being a more of a commercial aspect of it. And I was able to expand my commercial portfolio, let's just say. And I will forever be grateful for Billy in that aspect as well, and be able to say that, I worked with him and, worked on some really cool projects with them from that aspect. And of course, the audio recording stuff, the podcast that this podcast and a couple other podcasts that I recorded, and the skill that I learned here, as far as, you go to, we've talked about this before, how YouTube, it's a great classroom. It's a wishy-washy classroom, but once you figure it out, who knows what they're talking about? It's a great place to learn something. And that is a skill, again, that I learned in Phoenix as far as being able to record and be able to help other people express themselves as well. There's a couple podcasts that I recorded. Shout out to Raw Sugar Podcast, of course, that have allowed me to record their podcast. And of course, the Sick Ass Fool Podcast that allowed me to have some fun and record them as well, and learn skills about recording remotely, and again, acquiring more gear in that sense and being able to use it. What I didn't want to make it seem like is the whole make a heaven out of hell sort of situation, and while Phoenix isn't as vibrant artistically as what I was used to before, it definitely was very helpful in helping me move forward. One of the projects that I wanted to do in Phoenix that I never really got to was, in the very beginning, I was like, you know what? Everyone talks about how shitty Phoenix is for certain, people that don't live here. And to me, it was like, you know what? I'm sitting here talking about, like, and one of the reasons I got the podcast going too is because I wanted to exhaust every single avenue that Phoenix had before I can really call the city a piece of shit. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to be able to talk to as many artists as possible, go to as many restaurants as possible, which Phoenix has some great restaurants here too. And I wanted to talk to as many people as possible before I go, you know what, this town really does suck. and I wanted to go to as many shows as I possibly could. And within the past couple of years, this is what my podcast what I wanted to do. Was one of the goals of the podcast, and one of the reasons that I wanted to speak to artists and other creative type people. Speaking, if you go before, I've talked to beauty experts, nails and hair, and of course, and photographers and painters. And I wanted to move forward on with that. And, unfortunately, things fell that didn't allow me to keep forward with that. But even from the little bit that I was able to find out and to research and to experience, there's no way you can call this town a shit town. There's just no way. You're going to need, there are people and places that you will benefit from artistically. You just got to find them. You got to look for them, but they're there. I remember thinking that I was the only Akira Kurosawa fan in Phoenix. And, I know that's ridiculous, but in my head, I was like, dude, nobody knows more about Akira Kurosawa than I do. And you know what? This is Phoenix, blah, 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 blah. What the fuck do they know? And the Film Bar, which is a cool little place down in Phoenix, they play old movies, and you go in there and you can buy a beer and you can sit down in their little old school type movie theater. It's a tiny movie theater. If it holds 100 people, it holds, maybe it holds 100 people. I don't think it does. Maybe it holds 50 people. Somewhere around in there. I've only been there a couple of times. And they were showing Jojimbo, an Akira Kurosawa movie. And I go there and I'm thinking, all right, this is probably I'm going to be maybe one of 3 people in there. And the place was packed, man. There was one guy who brought his dog in. In the beginning of the movie, there's this dog that, as our hero, or more or less our anti-hero, walks into town like an old Western, if you will. And he's walking into a town, and one of the things that greets him is his dog running up the street with a hand in his mouth. And, to set the mood as to what kind of town it is, you know what I'm saying? And so this guy brought his dog into the theater, and he had taught him how to bring a hand out or something, carry a hand. It was just kind of funny. He made a little hand out of he had a hand. That's all. And he had the dog run around with a hand in his mouth, and it was pretty fucking funny. And there was a couple other people there that had every movement and noise that our hero had. Toshiro Mifune, the actor, had makes all the moves and the motions, and I'm like, man, maybe I don't know shit about fucking Jojimbo and Mifune and stuff, but it was just an experience that I had to where, like, you just got to find it, But after all that's said and done, and all the pros that I'm talking about, I'm not gonna miss Phoenix that much, guys. I'm sorry. I'm gonna miss some of you. I'm gonna miss, some of the friends that I definitely got to know here, the people. But living here, fuck that, man. I'm out, and I'm going into another part of the world that is going to take some used to. But once this whole thing opens up, and hopefully within the next year, we can all start going out. And we can all, and when this thing's out of control, or under control, not out of control, when this thing is under control and people can go out safely, experience the good things in life, hopefully I'll be able to show you what's happening. I'll be able to, of course, you're going to hear it through here, the podcast, and tell you what life is like from where I'm at. And we'll take it from there, man. I do not regret, but I am going to miss not talking to a lot more artists here in Phoenix face to face. And that, in general, it is something that unfortunately isn't going to happen whether I'm in Phoenix or not. And because I've told you, I'm a social distance champion. and I've been living like a hermit for a while. What's funny is this, and this is how much of a hermit I've been, and how much of a recluse, but how much of a otaku type person I've been. A couple of weeks ago, when I drove out of town to go to my new place, that was the first time I went out of my house at night. It was the first time I drove at night, and it was the first time I went out of town. Well, I hadn't driven at night and have been out of my house at night since April. Don't think that there's anything else, but yeah, I hadn't been out there. The only time I went out to eat at a restaurant was my brother took me to my birthday, and we had cheeseburgers at a spot down the road, which, by the way, was delicious. I can't recall the name of it right now, but everything was still social distancing sort of thing. That's the only time I went out to eat at a restaurant. So 2 weeks ago was the first time that I drove at night, went out of my house at night, and went out of town. What happened that week was the first time I saw my friend, social distancing, guys, I saw my friend, hung out with him. First time I went out and had tacos at night. And it's the first time I did a bunch of shit. It did feel weird. And this past weekend, again, was only the second time I ever did that again. Of course, go out at night, drink, actually. And I still haven't had beer. I'm not drinking beer for a while. I might have one or two, but beer isn't my thing. But I definitely hit the bourbon. And last week was the first time I had tequila in a long time. And man, I had some great tequila. First time I had brandy in a long time. And I'm talking brandy. I hadn't had brandy in probably, 25 years. And I'm not even exaggerating. I think the last time I had brandy, about 20 years. I must have been maybe in my mid to late 20s experimenting with different alcohols. And I had brandy then. And I haven't really, it's not that I hate brandy, but it's just that it's not my first choice of things. They offered me some and I took some and it was good. I don't do that Jose Cuervo shit, man. I don't do the Especial or that crap, man. I know Patron is some of you guys' favorite fucking tequila, but that stuff is mediocre to me. Don Julio is just slightly above that, but and it's like the stuff we all drink here, right? We all think it's gold and things like that. I mean, it's not that they're bad, but it's not my favorite tequila. I'm more of an Herradura guy. I love Herradura, if you know what I'm talking about, the one with the horseshoe on it. I love the Añejo one too. I mean, those are my tequilas. Even then, I wouldn't call those that far above Don Julio. It's better than Don Julio and Patron, but it's not the upper echelon of tequilas. It's pretty decent. So, which is to say, I'm not a huge tequila drinker, or haven't been for the past maybe 10, 15 years, but I had some great tequila and, of course, drank my bourbon as well. And, as far as the pandemic goes, hopefully soon we'll be able to, I'll be able to go out and do some things. And again, Phoenix is somewhere that, again, I'm going to come back to every once in a while. So, you're not going to miss me that much, but for sure, I'm not going to be living here anymore, man. But I did, ramble on a little bit here, and I appreciate you guys listening to this whole fucking thing. But the whole point of this thing was like, sometimes you just need to say, what the fuck, and go for it, man. Get into that risky business shit. You know what I'm saying? And I had been plotting on living where I want to be at. I had been plotting on living there for maybe maybe 2 or 3 years. And actually, I wanted to do it a while ago, but the silver lining is, as far as working remotely and being able to only need a decent internet connection, which is all I need at the moment, I'm able to do certain things, and it doesn't matter where I live, I can still work from home. So the silver lining to this whole pandemic thing has allowed me to grow and move on from where I'm at. And, the whole thing, again, what I wanted to drive home is sometimes I obviously I can't sit here and be all romantic and poetic and go, you know what, fuck it, bros, stop what you're doing and be irresponsible and go live your life. We all have responsibilities somehow, and some of us, our responsibilities are a lot more than others. Some of us can't drop everything and just go out and live the bohemian lifestyle. That's just something that's not granted to a lot of us. I mean, kids got to eat and our kids got to go to school. There are things that you got to take care of, and maybe even your job isn't going to allow you to, you have to be at your job all the time in order to make a living. And I understand that. But if there's a situation, if there's some sort of opening that is going to allow you to be more creative, or if there's an opportunity that exists for you, you got to take it. You have to, and in a weird way, deal with the consequences of it later. And that's what I'm doing here. And, it's not, the consequences aren't going to be that great, but I'm not worried about it. As long as I keep creating, as long as I have a camera, as long as I have a microphone and being able to express myself and podcast and have you guys listening to me to keep on rambling on, I think I'm going to be all right. If there's any bit of advice I can give anybody, and I'm not one here to sit on any soapbox and tell you how to be an artist or tell you how to create or tell you how to live your fucking life. But if there's anything I can tell you from this particular, at least this fucking episode, is if you see an opportunity, man, take it. Here's to new beginnings. Here's to being as creative as you can be during this time. All right. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Take it easy. And hopefully the next time that I talk to you it's going to be from my new spot. Stay clean, wash your hands, wear a mask, and enjoy your youth.